Welcome back to the channel and to a very special video. Yeah, webcam and everything. Yesterday I was invited down to London for a hands-on with PGA Tour 2K23. We got an hour of play followed by some Q&A with the developer, and a huge thanks to 2K UK, Josh in particular, for putting on the event, and for HP with their time on the Q&A. Now, not all of our questions will be answered now. There'll be more information dropped as we get closer to release, and I can't share everything that I know with you, but I'm really positive about the developments of the gameplay and the impacts on the course designer as a result. We don't know much about the designer yet, but gameplay is always the biggest thing impacting on our design, and that's hugely improved. Now, first thing, we're going to watch the trailer, so skip this bit if you've already seen it. Then we'll dissect some of the images from that and some stills, following on the impact of the course designer. Now, in my video, knowing my audience, we're going to particularly focus on the impacts on the courses that we design and what you can potentially expect. But we're going to start by looking at the gameplay, then the new courses that are featured, before talking about the designer itself. Enjoy.
Good luck in your rivalry. You're gonna need it.
Grown men lose their minds if they get a glimpse of Tiger Woods from 50 yards away.
So starting talking about the gameplay, now playing as the pros was an absolute blast. It wasn't something that I missed in the previous game, but I'm a real convert. They have their own swings, and HP did a ton of motion capture to make sure they look authentic. Most importantly, though, for our point of view, is they're really balanced. You can't be good at everything, and so we're going to need to make compromises to our own my players as we go, following that kind of attribute-based path. There are 6 different categories ranging from power to lie, range, and things like that. And this is the single biggest thing we needed for a designer. More variety means fewer hazards around the 295 mark, and it's going to introduce more interesting courses. We have to think about how to design for all golfers. Ultimately, there will be some sort of meta, but this will bring more variety and better course design for us. For example, the highest on the power was Rahm at 86, and that led to roughly a 295 yard carry with driver. Now, that might mean that if you were going down the 100% power model, well, you might be able to clear most of the bunkers we've previously put down, but someone with 50 power but lots of accuracy would be able to stay short of them. We need to be thinking about exactly where we're putting our hazards. The more interesting things for me were how hazards would come into play both laterally and vertically. It's much harder to keep the ball straight. Pushes and pulls happen a lot, and you will regularly be bringing hazards in both left and right of the green. My tendency was to play a slight fast and pull slightly, so I would be bringing a lot of trouble down the left of the courses into play, meaning that I would typically start by aiming off the right edge of the fairway. And this was pretty big. If I was aiming down the middle and I pulled a shot, it was going off the left of the fairway. So it does make you think a little bit more as you're playing, which again is what we want. You can also try to go way beyond 100% power. I think I got up to 107% on a driver, and that's going to give real risk reward because the timing gets even more finicky if you're doing that. It was more common to have a grey fast than anything else. I got very few perfects within that time on both Master and Legend. Um, and the red fast is much less frequent. And I think I saw more variability within that grey fast range, from a very slight one, which did not much, to kind of on the edge of a red fast equivalent. The most necessary change I think we had was chipping, and the good news is there's no longer a splash shot unless you're in a bunker. You can only have chip shots from around the green, and the lob wedge chip, which is currently very broken in the game. You can chip in from pretty much anywhere greenside. Lob wedge chip now carries 25 yards. Well, short chips, therefore, where you're wanting to carry it 3 or 4 feet, 4 yards in, are very difficult to control. They're super partials, and they were so tough on Master without the meter, meaning that if you are short-sided, that is a genuine risk. Now, for us, what that's going to mean is we're going to have to be really careful with how we do that. Typically, we've been used to, if you go long of a green, everything slopes away from you. Well, in addition, on the green grids, if you are on a slight green slope and putting from above the hole, it's really hard to stop the ball. Everything feels a lot faster if you are above the hole, and we're going to have to use that much more judiciously than we are currently, which is, again, great news. It's much more realistic. It's what we want to see. Bunker shots. You can still use the splash shot, but short bunker shots were really tough on Master without the meter. There were multiple times where I was leaving the ball in the bunker or hitting it way long, trying to find exactly that percentage. Now, we will get used to that with practice, but that was something I think is a really good thing for us, having that variability, and meaning that bunkers actually are a hazard in the way that I don't really think they are in the current game. So, change for us, consider short siding itself as being the hazard rather than something we always use to exaggerate the hazards that we do put down. I did play around with the 3-click swing a little bit. Others will go into that in more detail. I definitely wouldn't say it's easier at this stage. It was, if anything, much tougher for me, but it was something that I thought was really nice and different. There are still a few things they will need to sort on the gameplay point of view. The 8-iron pitch shot is still a thing. Short chips I'd expect to be made a little bit easier, but it's an early preview copy and rigorous QA testing will happen. On the whole, it was just a lot of fun to play, and it was really nice, as the early stages of 21 were, when you're kind of still learning the swing and you're playing away from hazards because you're genuinely afraid of getting in them. I also found fairway bunkers much tougher. You're regularly not getting onto the green if you hit into one, which again is more realistic and all of the things that we want to see. So in short, the gameplay as a whole, just much more realistic, much more punitive if you're in the wrong spots. And again, that's everything that is music to our ears. So the final thing we're going to look at really briefly is the customization aspect. Other people will go into this in far more detail than I can, but I thought what was interesting was looking at the attributes that you can develop. Power at 28 still leads to 269 yards of carry. So you have to pump quite a lot into power in order to see those big gains that you might want. You've also then got all of the clubs that can kind of fine tune essentially what you're wanting to do. What was more interesting to me was this skills tree, how you choose to develop your golfer, whether you want to be receiving timing boosts, so like tempo gets a little bit more easy from heavy rough, or whether you want to be focusing on bunkers. And you can do that based on whichever club you want to focus on. And driver obviously wouldn't be used from bunker, so you might be looking at slightly different skills for those. I thought that was something that actually feels like I can develop my golfer a little bit more in the way that I want to, rather than just being stock golfer man, which is a really cool change, and again impacts on the variety of courses that we're going to design for different types of people. Next, we're going to look at the official courses. There are going to be 20 licensed courses in game at launch, and the 4 that we had available for play yesterday were Eastlake Country Club, which I didn't play. We've got it in the current game. Wilmington Country Club, the Renaissance Club in Scotland, host of the Scottish Open, and St George's Golf and Country Club, host of the Canadian Open. I particularly focused on the latter two. Now, there are likely going to be more coming in, and what's interesting is based on Renaissance and St George's, they're based on this year's PGA schedule, so we can work out the sorts of courses that we're going to expect on schedule, whether the licensed ones or the ones they use to replace those. Now, first up, we've got the Renaissance Club, which is a Tom Doak links course, which I can hear all the golf architecture nerds salivating over. It's a really good course. It played true to form, lots of fun and very high winds, and had some really interesting greens. Now, we're going to look at some real life pictures as well, so you can get a bit of an idea of what's coming in. and it's a really stunning course. You've got coastal sides, you've got trees, you've got proper links style course. Now, in game, there are definitely some interesting things here. And the first thing you might notice from this short still grabbed from the trailer is that we do have pot bunkers, which is something we've been asking for years. Now, this comes with a big disclaimer. Unfortunately, these will not be available in the course designer at launch. They are working really hard on it, but it's something that they had to put in via the LiDAR data for this course. And each pot bunker that there is on the course, you can see them just short of the green here and here. They do look really, really good in game, but each one of those was custom created to fit that one particular course. They have said they're going to work on it. They understand just how much we've been wanting these, but they're really finicky to develop, and they have put time into other stuff within the designer. So bear with us on that. That said, they played really, really well, and the course looked good. Here are the couple of stills that we have from the trailer that we had. But this one was a lot of fun. It's not my favourite links course in Scotland, but it's great to have one there as well. And it's hosted the Scottish Open, so it makes sense for it to be in. You can also see one other asset that I'm hoping that we will get our hands on later on down the line is those really cool stone walls that come into feature around some of the greens. So fingers crossed. They will keep adding stuff post-launch, but hopefully that makes it across as well. Next up, we had St George's Golf and Country Club, which is host of the RBC Canadian Open. It's certainly a top 100 course in the world. It depends who you ask. It's got a 23rd high on Golf Digest, roughly 60th on average, and one of the top 3 courses certainly in Canada. This was great to play. I played it on Legend and Master. It's a really cool course with lots of side hill lies, funky Stanley Thompson style bunkering, awkward drive distances. Just there's lots to make you think, and you definitely did not want to be above the hole on this one. Now we're going to look at some of the real pictures of this course as well, so that you get a bit of an idea of what it's like, taken from their website. But the in-game version was pretty well done. As you can see, the bunkers are really distinctive. They make good use of the lighting for these pictures as well. But it's a beautiful course, and it was a ton of fun to play. This was the course where I really noticed the chip shot being so difficult. I think it was on the 8th, which is a long par 3. I was slightly long and left of the green, facing a downhill chip, which they note on their website is one of the trickiest shots on the course. And the nearest I could get it to was about 75 feet, all the way down the bottom of the green. It's really tricky and was a great course to play. That will be one that I'm really looking forward to when it comes in creative mode. Now, the final one that I spent time playing was Wilmington Country Club. Now, I don't know much about this course, and it feels like pretty standard PGA Tour fare, but it's pretty close to the end of FedEx Cup. I think it was on last weekend. And it played pretty well, frankly. The greens were a complete nightmare. I put these right the way up to the fastest speeds, which are also interesting. They now go up to 192 as max, and they feel a lot quicker than our current 187s. It's not just 5 difference. They've kind of remapped the green speeds completely. This was one where, again, you did not want to be above the hole, and there were some holes where it was pretty much unplayable on the 192s that we had, whilst looking like it was mostly yellow and orange slopes. So the slopes certainly play trickier than they look in the current game. And we're going to have to bear that in mind when we're designing. It will be one where you need to play test your greens again, because if, like me, you design them a lot without play testing, they don't play how you'd expect necessarily. Now, the reason why I say it was a good news story is this is a really recent remapping of this course. Recently, it underwent a complete restoration following hurricane, which took out 90 or so trees around the course, and they've had all of the bunkers redone, which look absolutely fantastic, as you can see. And here's a bit of a screenshot of some of the damage that was caused by that hurricane. So it's cool to have a bit of a visual replica of this course in game. So in addition to those 20 licensed courses, you'll have other courses building up career mode. And you can see some of these as screenshots from the promotional materials that we were given. Now, these look really, really good, and you can see the new kind of tree models and things that you've been given, and you might be able to pick up certain similarities and things they were influenced by. There's also some new things that you'll spot. So these flowers, for example, really bright and popping. They look great. Also some new trees that I don't think we've really seen before, but it's hard to tell when everything's updated. I think the courses themselves look awesome. These ones that are kind of replacing the main courses, and should be like a really fun addition to career mode. We also had this one, which Energizer clocked in the background of the Michael Jordan announcement, was Tahitian Escape, which is a course that he created for the designer program in 21. So there might be some of those courses coming back as well. This one's a class one to have in there. Hopefully a few others will make it in, or other top community courses. So it's really nice to see that getting featured again as well. So show us the designer, I hear you cry. Well, unfortunately, there's not that much to show. We didn't get a hands-on with it yesterday. It was gameplay based, as you would expect, and there wasn't a huge amount in the trailer. I am really positive about all of the changes that I have seen towards gameplay and seeing some of the other things that we're going to go on and mention. But first, I have to mention my frustration with how they are marketing the designer. It is so much more than just a tool for casual users to place as many alligators as they can and then get out. And showing the ceiling of what can be achieved by amazing designers should be a must in future videos rather than just the floor. Imagine seeing, say, a Lost Preserve or a Taliesin, or dare I say even a Strathlorn, of what could come out of that, and seeing that as a potential buyer of the game, because that's how I got into the game. I saw Canuck featuring courses from a World Cup of Design on his YouTube channel and thought that will really scratch that creative itch. That's something I really want to do and have always loved about golf. I can't believe I could do that. We need to be marketing to those people a bit more. Now, with that out of the way, what have we seen from the designer? First off, every single tree has been completely updated and has a new model, and that's a huge graphical undertaking for them. They look significantly better both close up and from a distance, and that's something the game really needed. Some of them looked very tired by the end. I didn't notice any differences to surfaces, rocks, or grass, but those might come further down the line. They are certainly intending to support the designer more post-launch. Now, that's a really good thing, and I thought also those sorts of trees that would be typically used in parkland courses are much elevated, and there's a lot of good variety there. Certainly, as you can see in this image, they're much higher definition as well, which I think is good for us moving forward. Now, I do think that will potentially lead to some problems porting courses. If all of the assets have changed, when you're bringing them over, although they'll be assigned to the same object, they will look different to what you were expecting. So particularly for those of us who sink a lot of plants or trees or bushes, definitely me, that might impact how that course looks when you bring it into the new game. That said, I think that's definitely a net benefit, and we will certainly have some new objects. Looking at the pink trees in the background of this still, those are certainly new and what we don't have currently. Now, it looks also like they have completely overhauled the UI within the designer, and to me that looks quite good. It's quite clean. There's fewer menus cluttering up your view, and you can see a lot more of what you are producing. It will almost certainly take us a while to get used to, because changes have to go on under the hood and where you're navigating things, but that's a good thing. I do wish that they'd chosen a better image to market the designer with, because that's not approved and getting the copy paste review every single time. But they recognise our community and what that we can do to push them and help them make the game as best it can be. So in summary, a lot of you might be disappointed that we haven't seen more of the designer as yet. I think it's worth remembering that there will be more coming down the road, and we must recognise that the designer is a small subsection of this game, and good designers are a small subsection of that small subsection. They're not going to put that info front and centre in every single trailer. We won't get all of that information up front, but it is going to come down the line. And above all, those gameplay changes are really, really good and will make the courses all play better and encourage us towards better designing. And for me, that's the best thing we could ask for. We aim to have realistic courses that play differently for pretty much everyone. And that's getting closer. It was fun to play the game. That's really important as well, and it felt different. It felt like the hazards mattered, which is a huge thing that we really want, because at the moment bunkers are kind of just decoration. The career and play now modes will have much more depth, and again the courses that they've introduced, the Renaissance Club and St George's, were lots of fun to play, and career mode might actually be something I have a stab at this year. So let me know your thoughts. We're both good, worried about, would like to see more of, and hopefully we'll get more information soon. But certainly playing it yesterday was something that really excited me, and I look forward to you guys getting to play it too.